Hello, and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom with your hosts, Heather and Rachel.
Together, we're here to talk about all things self-care, from fitness to mindfulness and everything in between.
Whether it's yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, or practices like tapping and meditation, we're here to help you discover new ways to care for yourself.
We'll also share tips on positive self-talk, finding time for self-care, and creating routines that stick.
We're here to provide you with plenty of tips, tricks, and unsolicited life advice.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Join our community, and together we can explore the path to wellness. Hello and welcome to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. So today we're going to dive into a topic that affects us all, right? So it's how we respond to stress. And let's face it, life is it's stressful, right? So we often hear about fight or flight, but today we're going to talk about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And you may not hear as much about these other two. Now I've heard flight, fight, or freeze, and occasionally here and there, I've heard fawn in there, but that is one that's definitely lesser talked about. So we're going to break them down. We're going to do our regular Q&A style. We're going to go back and forth, and so that we can understand these stress responses a little bit better, recognize what's going on with our lives, and also some interventions to, number one, help when these responses are happening, and then give you some ways to kind of cultivate a practice to have these responses show up less and less when we're dealing in stressful situations. All right. So the first question we have here is we're going to get into what's the flight response? Okay. And when does that happen?
Yeah. So the fight response happens. That's okay. The fight response happens when your body is confronted with a challenge, like a head-on challenge, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel defensive, your heart is racing, your adrenaline kicks in. You think of like a moment during like an argument when you're faced with like a sudden like stressor, right? Like something's coming at you. It's usually in certain situations, but can lead into like other things, right? So look at it as like fight, like you are ready, like you got your dukes up, you're ready to fight, you're ready to either, scream it out or you're ready to duke it out, right? It's like that defense mode that like I need to protect where I'm at right now. So that's your fight. So what does it look like in everyday life? So your flight response is the runaway, right? So the flight response is when your brain is telling you, we need to escape this situation. We need to get out of here. Mm-hmm. And so it's not always like physically running away. It could mean avoiding. It could mean kind of like you see like a coworker coming down the hall and you kind of like tuck in somewhere, just kind of like, or like in a store, you don't want to have a confrontation with somebody like that you see or whatever.
You see someone come up on your caller ID and you're like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's your flight, right? It kind of hides you from the confrontation. Like you don't want the conflict. So your brain is trying to protect you. Your brain is trying to steer you away from the confrontation, from the conflict and things like that.
So like kind of like when you get, when you get sick, when you have like a big presentation or something like that you don't want to show up for, and like all of a sudden like you have a sore throat and you can't talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a little sneakier way, like to put that in there. Cause I know a lot of times, like, for certain people, something stressful comes up and all of a sudden they get sick or something happens and then, now I can't talk. So it's like, it's just funny how your brain and your body will do that, to you and for you.
Yes. That's your throat chakra. That's your throat chakra is like, we're not doing this. We're
Yep.
not
Sorry.
doing this.
I'm shutting it down.
Shutting it down.
I'm just shutting it down. All right. So now the freeze response. What is the freeze response? When does this happen?
So, in the freeze response, your brain gets stuck, right? You're just kind of stuck where you are. You can't decide whether or not you want to fight or flee. So, you kind of just shut down. So, you'll watch this in like if a parent is, you know, a little aggressive with a child verbally, and you'll
Mhm.
watch the child, you could just see the mannerisms of the child just kind of close down and doesn't make eye contact and just kind of looks to the ground and things like that. Or in a situation of like parents fighting with a child, like with a child around or something like that,
Mhm.
that's where that freeze comes in. That kind of like, we're just going to shut down here, we're just not going to even acknowledge that anything's going on, right?
But okay, but even too, like I would think like in an emergency situation, right?
Hmm.
Something's happening. There's like a burning building or a car accident or this or that. So you're gonna see maybe like if you're there and there's like 10 people witnessing this, you're gonna see some people are gonna run into
Yep.
action to help people. Some people are gonna like drive off in the other direction, and some
Hmm.
people are just gonna stop.
Yeah, the freeze reaction is really just polarizing, right? It
Mhm.
just paralyzes the person, and it really is just like your brain and everything is so overwhelmed that you can't even process where we're going, right?
Okay.
Like you're just like, I don't, I really don't know what to do. I'm like frozen here.
Right, but sometimes and I think it's important to point out too, you're not thinking clearly like that, like
Yeah.
what you just said, right? You're not thinking, "I'm just frozen here."
Oh
You're literally
no.
you're just frozen.
Yes.
Your rational thinking at this point, like for all of these,
Hmm.
has now shut down
Hmm.
because it is not necessary. We're in a stress response
Yes.
and like all those normal brain functions and some of your other body functions are stopped.
Right.
You're literally flooded with you're flooded with hormones and you're going to do one of these four things basically
Hmm.
in order to cope with whatever is happening around you.
Yeah.
So now our fourth response is fawn. So explain what that is.
Yeah. So fawn is not like, this is not one that people are commonly familiar with, right?
Mhm.
The fawn response is about like the people pleaser response. And usually the fawn response comes in like trauma, right?
Mhm.
And so when you look at the fawn response, it is the person that wants to fix everything and make everything okay. They just want to like, I just want to please everybody and make it okay. It happens when you're trying to avoid the conflict or the danger, right? So
Right.
you're just trying to appease the situation so the situation doesn't escalate, right? You're not going to solve anything. You're not
Right.
going to solve anything. We're just trying to like appease the situation so the situation kind of like just kind of, it doesn't go away, but it just
Right.
kind of comes down.
It doesn't escalate, right? So we're
Right.
gonna try to keep that from escalating. And again, I like the little kid um analogy from before. So if
Yeah.
there's a child who's getting yelled at
Hmm.
for doing certain things, they're not gonna run away because they need to do something. So they're going to try to do whatever they can to
Yeah.
keep that yelling or whatever else is going on from
Right.
happening.
Yeah.
And and a lot of adults as well. So
Right. And fawning is usually a learned behavior, right?
oh yeah, absolutely.
It's a little different than the other ones, but they are a behavior that comes in a stressful situation, right? And
Absolutely.
so it's learned, not necessarily somebody actually teaching them that, but it's learned because people are trying to survive,
Mhm.
and so they know if they can appease the situation, then they don't get in trouble, or
Right.
they can
So then the
appease.
danger, yeah, kind of goes away.
Right, right, right. And I say don't get in trouble, but I mean it's so many other things, right? But
Right.
it's just going with that kid analogy.
Yes,
Um,
exactly, I know, and but that's where my brain always goes.
yeah.
Um, it really does, and it's just like and I still, like, when I find myself in certain situations and I'm like, when it comes down to it, like when I think about it afterwards, like I go back to being that little kid, and the
Oh
response
yeah.
is I just don't want to get yelled at. Like I don't want to get in trouble. And
Yeah.
it's like, I'm not going to as an adult. And I'm very well aware of that. But in certain situations,
Hmm.
that's still what it feels like.
Yeah. And I think that, those are all core memories that just
Yeah.
don't go away, right? Anytime there's emotion backing that memory, right? Whether it's a happy emotion or sad emotion or scared emotion or whatever,
Mhm.
those create those core memories. So your brain goes right there to a core memory when something like that happens.
Right.
So
Yeah, and a lot of
yeah,
times these things are automatic. We don't often
yeah,
get to pick and choose in which way we're going to respond. And oftentimes, depending on the situation and where we are in them, we might have any one of these
yeah,
four, right? I
yeah,
mean, there's no guarantee that every single time you're in a stress state that you're going to
mm-mm,
go into fight.
yeah,
Like you may the next time you may go into flight, you may freeze another time.
yeah,
In some situations, you may just people please because and I think a lot of times like your brain and your body have these reactions and they go into like, you're kind of in autopilot and they
yeah,
do what
totally.
is best for you in that moment in that situation.
Right. And even if, and know that it could change too. Like you could be in like a freeze state, right? And then something triggers and you're like, oh, wait, okay, I can be helpful here. Or,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
I really need to leave this situation because this is dangerous. I'm too close, or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. So these, and I want to like reiterate, I look at these as not responding but reacting. Like these are
Absolutely.
all reactions. Like they are non like processing reactions.
Well,
They just
absolutely.
they're instant.
Your thinking brain literally shuts off in
Yes.
these situations, and what do they call it? The lizard brain,
Yes.
right? So you literally go into instinctual
Right.
reaction. You are
Yeah.
not like you're not in rational thought. You're that is shut down. Like the
Yeah.
system is shut down. Like that's what all those hormones do that come rushing through your body. And you are going to react
Hmm.
to what's happening in that situation. So before we get too deep in conversation, we'll hit the questions because all of these things will kind of be answered and come a little clearer as we do this. So, why do we experience these responses and what can trigger them?
Yeah. So these responses are controlled by the amygdala.
Mhm.
And so when you look at the brain is like a house, right? And I look at the amygdala as like the basement, right?
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
your survival, right? Your furnace is down there and it's kind of, your primal brain, right? And then you have the first floor that's all your necessities, your kitchen, your water, your bathroom, your blah blah blah. And then upstairs is your higher thinking brain
Right.
with your creativity and your logic and your problem solving and blah 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 blah. And so the reality is we kind of hang out in that basement when we are in that survival mode. We hang out there because that's going to keep us safe. So it's the part of the brain that is responsible for your fear and your survival. When it feels, senses, triggers a threat, something triggers a threat, that goes into action and it takes over. It
Mhm.
takes over everything. And so when you are genuinely in distress, when you are genuinely scared, it's going to take over and it's going to tell you, okay, this is what I believe is going to keep you safe. So it's going to tell you to fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. You know what I mean? And so that's like the whole responsibility of it, right? It's to keep you alive in these situations. So, and they don't, and it doesn't know difference between dangers,
Okay. Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. So,
right? It doesn't.
yeah,
It
if you have
doesn't.
a threat at work, like of stress, of a deadline or something like
Yes.
that, It's about your body, and this like primitive brain of yours is going to
Yes.
react like there's a tiger
Yes,
jumping out and ready to attack you.
absolutely.
And I think in today's society, even though we're not in imminent mortal danger as
Right.
often, we are under extreme stress to
Mhm.
produce
Yeah.
and to you create some sort of value, and our brain doesn't know the difference. And I think a big part of this too, I'm not sure if we touch on this in some of the answers, um is that our bodies are not meant to be under constant stress. Like these reactions are meant to happen. You're supposed to get a rush of hormones and be able to fight or run
Yeah.
away.
Right.
So after that happens, it takes some time. You come back to your rational thought, you come back to your
Mhm.
normal digestion. Because at
Right.
this point, like when you're in this like heightened state, you're not going to eat, you're not going to digest, you're not processing any information. You're like at basic instinct,
Yeah.
right? So
And your
all of these higher
cortisol levels
functions,
are through the roof.
right? Now, when this only happens every once in a while,
Mhm.
your body very quickly can kind of come back down into that state of like rest and digest.
Right.
But unfortunately for many of us, and the reason this is important and relevant is we're under constant states of stress,
Yes.
and our body is not able to then down regulate, like to get to that like
Right.
homeostasis, to get to that like normal, that like factory reset.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us need to learn about what's happening when this is going on and how to come back to that calm, normal state so that we're function and thinking and being creative and happy and joyful.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah.
that's the key, like that's one of the key elements as to
Yeah.
why we're discussing this.
And the reality when I say that the brain is like a house, right? In reality, if you are constantly in the basement, you are going to have to rebuild the staircase constantly. And that alone is like so hard to get from that survival mode to get to the second level, to get to the third level. And so if you could never, like you say, if you can never bring it down to that rest and digest,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much harder to get out of that fight,
Right.
that fight or flight. It's so hard to get out of that, and so you have to like really process and train, and know that you might need to seek help outside
Absolutely.
of your own abilities, because if you are in a constant state of stress, you need some outside help to help you build a staircase to get to the second level.
Well, yeah, because even if you know what to do, when
Yeah.
you're stuck in that state, you can't get there. And I mean, and I can speak to this from being there. So that's
Mhm.
basically now, I've talked about this before. Like I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and at first they didn't know what it was. It was like, oh, there's no cure, there's no this, there's no that. And eventually, like they were saying they didn't know what it was. Now, all of the research and everything that's coming out now is that it is a um, dysregulated nervous system that this happens, and you get caught in this constant state of like fight or flight,
Mhm.
and you never come back to rest or digest. So your muscles stay tight. You're like always on edge. You're like ready to fight or run all the time. So you never get back into that
A
rest and
regulated
digest.
state.
And no matter what you know, no matter what your rational brain knows,
Mhm.
it doesn't make it easier to act on that or to be able to do the things that you know that you need to do
Right.
to get better, because you're not getting there. And it is important to basically like see, what's available to you out there,
Mhm.
and to get professional help in one way or the other for whatever does work for you.
Right.
Because if this is a constant state, it becomes chronic.
Mhm.
And there are things that you need to do to kind of get into regulation. And here's the good part is we'll talk about some of these steps, the things that you can do um before it gets escalates
Yeah.
to that point, and to keep yourself regulated and to keep that from happening and becoming a chronic issue.
Yeah. And know
So
that also outside, it's not always you are dealing with it. There are outside elements too that keep you in those situations as well. And so like these are all things that like if you are in that state all the time, my suggestion is that you need to really talk to an outside help,
absolutely. Yeah,
because
there's
you need to get to the root of why you're in that state all the time. Like you had the fibromyalgia or
mhm.
have the fibromyalgia and things like that. So you need to figure out why you're there, because if you don't know the root of why you're always there, it's really, really hard to step somewhere else.
Yeah, it
So,
is. It's very difficult, and it's like it's taken me like, trying different things, finding the right people to talk to, like finding what has like resonated with me, and
mhm,
then like, doing work on my own to
yeah,
just keep getting better and knowing again like what puts me into that state, like how to recognize it, what to do to get me out of it quicker. And
right.
honestly, for me, practicing those things daily has been really key for me. And we're going to go over a lot of what these things are, to keeping myself from automatically going into these states, because sometimes it's the smallest trigger
Hmm.
that would not set anyone else off. That would not normally be a sense of danger for anyone.
Right,
And literally something small happens, someone pushes you, like you get like knocked off a balance, you didn't see something coming or whatever, and you're
right.
instantly getting triggered into this state by something small, like a loud noise,
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
flashing lights, something like that, and it's just like something that wouldn't affect anyone else, and you're physically going into a different state.
absolutely.
So, before we go too much onto that tangent, I want to kind of get into some of the things that we can do to
Hmm.
help get out of this state or to practice so we go into this state less and less. So, we're going to talk about grounding techniques and what grounding does to help keep you calm and to kind of minimize these responses.
Awareness, right? Keeping aware to your surrounding and what's going on is your first key, right? So before we step into the grounding, you need to be aware that you're there, right? And then going into the grounding is reminding your brain that you are safe, right? If you truly are safe, you have to let your brain know, hey, yep, this was a scary situation. This person jumped out at me and freaked me out, but I am safe and things are okay, right? So, one simple method is just taking a really nice deep inhale, counting 4 in, holding it for 4, and then exhaling slowly. So it's kind of like a box breath. So you inhale for a 4 count, you hold for a 4 count, you release for a 4 count, and then you hold at the bottom for a 4 count. And it just calms that nervous system down. It kind of lets you know, hey, I have time to breathe, things are okay, right? And so after engaging in that, then noticing all your senses, right? What can I see? What can I hear? What can I feel? What can I taste? Like, like if it's really a dangerous situation and say it's a fire, I smell smoke. I can't see it, but I can smell smoke. So like it's close, but I don't see it. And so keeping everything in awareness, right? All your senses in awareness to bring you back to the present moment is the way that you're going to ground yourself in. And it's a great survival mode too, because you can't make proper judgment if you are not aware of the situation.
Absolutely.
You definitely don't want to run into the area that the danger is if you can like listen, hear, see something, smell something. You want to make sure that all your senses are tuned in before you now go, okay, I'm safe. And now we can move on and make proper decisions.
We're going to talk about movement and how movement can help us manage these responses as well. So, what kind of movement can we do to kind of help manage the stress in these responses?
So, movement, when I look at the movement practice, I look at the movement practice in the freezer fawn. right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking at the movement practice, we're looking at the freezer fawn because the movement releases the tension in the body. It starts to move around stuck energy. So yoga, stretching, walking, that'll all help you process the stress too.
Mm-hmm.
And so in one of our episodes, you and I talked about yoga and karate,
Mm-hmm.
tai chi, qigong, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Things that you can actually move the energy in the body are the practices that you want to see. And so that's really any movement practice, right? As soon as you start moving the body, the energy of the body starts moving. It gets unstuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we move, we send signals to our brain. It helps our brain relax and it helps us to restore balance to the nervous system, right? And that's exactly
Yeah.
where we want to be.
So I think too, a lot of times animals will shake to like
Mm-hmm.
literally shake off any stressful situation. Like a lot of times, and I thought it was honestly just because they were wet, but like with dogs, like if they don't like taking baths or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they do that like little shake. And I thought that was like literally just get the water off and to just dry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is part of it, but it's actually very traumatizing, like for a lot of
Yeah.
dogs to take that bath, and they do that whole shake thing to reset their nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of other animals that will do that, like when certain things happen. So if they like get in, they get into a fight or whatever, or they're being
Yeah.
chased by like a bigger animal, when the situation is over, they
take
literally just like do this whole shake, and it resets their nervous system. Also with that, and it's not so much movement, but it kind of cues in with the same thing. Crying a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
like, will
A release.
release a lot of that, stress and tension. And I know one other thing too, like just I get like rocking, like any kind of like just gentle swaying movement
Mm-hmm.
can be like very grounding and kind of like help you reset and come back to that more relaxed state. All right, so what kind of holistic tools can we use to help manage our stress response?
Yeah. So I always suggest EFT tapping. We've done episodes on that. And
Yes.
tapping is just a great way for you to manage your own body, your own energy, your own stress level. So by tapping, you hit specific points of the body, repeating affirmations. You can say, even though this situation's super stressful, I love and accept myself and I will be okay, right? You can calm your nervous system and process stress this way. But it helps you process the stress. Reiki is another option. Reiki is wonderful. It's an energy practice. It takes universal energy. It promotes deep relaxation and helps you bring your mind and body back into balance. These tools are powerful, right? Anything that you are kind of governing yourself and taking control of your own situation, you are empowering yourself. Like you're giving yourself the power back instead of giving the situation the power, right? And so sometimes you just need to shift that energy to give yourself the power back so you feel confident in this frightening situation or stressful situation that you can navigate.
Yeah, it's always good to have tools. And again, like it's always once you know you have these tools
Mm-hmm.
and they're there for you to use, the more of a pattern and a habit you build around them, the easier it is to access. Like you'll
Absolutely.
remember them more often. And again, the more you use these things in your daily life, the less of an effect that the stress is going to have on you,
Right.
because the more regulated you are, the more resilient you're going to be
Right.
in stressful situations. So that's, I think, really, like for me, like that's one of the key points to stress here, is that you have resources. And if you notice that you are under a lot of stress,
Mm-hmm.
you want to take action as soon as you can to find these things, to implement them into your life, to help keep yourself in a state of balance before things
Right.
maybe get out of control.
And so when I wrote this blog, I didn't put anything about the vagus nerve in there. And when you read the blog, you wanted to talk about the vagus nerve. So
Yes.
I'm just gonna hand that over to you so you can work through what the vagus nerve, does, and how does
Okay.
the nervous system and stress response go into all this, right?
Yes. So I'm just gonna, like, I'm putting my phone in front of me because I have quite a bit here and I don't want to miss any of these points. So the vagus nerve, and I have the question down, is like, what is like vagal toning and how can it help to regulate the nervous system and the stress response? So the vagus nerve is a big long nerve that literally runs like through like half your body, and it
Mhm.
is the connection between, like, it literally goes between the body and the brain. So you're
Mhm.
sending it's sending signals back and forth from body to brain, like as it kind of takes everything in from your surroundings. And I'm really just kind of giving a very
Yeah,
vague
basic.
basic
Mhm.
overview of this. This nerve can be accessed like in many ways, through the body or through certain actions. And the more you work on keeping the vagus nerve like toned, the healthier it will be and the more it helps you with your resilience. Vagal toning is a powerful way to calm your body and mind by stimulating the vagus nerve. Okay. It's a key part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's like your rest and digest, right? So
Mhm.
this helps your body relax and recover from stress by balancing your nervous system and reducing flight, fright, freeze, or fawn. Okay. So, and here are some of the ways that it can help. So it's going to help to balance the stress response. So a toned vagus nerve helps to shift your body into a relaxed state, calming the amygdala, which is,
Mhm.
the guy that's like screaming danger, danger, danger. All right. So it's going to help to calm the amygdala, and because that's where the stress and the fear are processed, right? So that's where
Right.
that stress is coming from. So it's going to send a signal to that part of your brain, and that's what's going to say, "Hey, we're safe. We're good. We can relax." Start the process of relaxing. It'll boost your heart rate variability, and what that does is, because I'm not, I can't like go into a deep scientific explanation of this. It's going to improve your ability to recover from stress and adapt to challenges. That's the key takeaway from that one. Now, it's also going to help regulate your emotions. Practices like deep breathing, like we talked about
Mhm.
before, something as simple as humming. So when
Mhm.
you hum, it's going to, like, it causes vibrations in your body, which will stimulate the nerve and help to calm it down. Things also like gargling will also get to this as well. Basic little things are going to help to control and reduce anxiety and like unnecessary stress. So simple things like just humming to yourself, like you put your
Right.
favorite songs on the radio, or spend a minute or two gargling while you're brushing your teeth in the morning,
Mhm.
can actually help calm your nervous system and put you into a better state and help you to be more resilient. I love these simple little things, like, because
Yeah.
it's accessible to everyone and it's something you can do every single day. And it's such a small thing to help keep you regulated, calm, and healthy. So that's why I'm like, I love this. All right. It's also going to help reduce inflammation. Vagal stimulation, sorry, it lowers inflammation, creating more calm in the body and mind. It's going to build resilience. So over time, it's going to strengthen your ability to handle stress, discomfort, making you less reactive to challenges, which is the
Mhm.
biggest reason I wanted to talk about this in this episode. Because, we can tell you all about these things and what the response is and how we're acting to this. And it's always super important to me to say, hey, but we have tools to help you deal with this.
Mhm.
So, and I thought this is like one of the great tools, because the more you practice this, the more you incorporate it, the more you make it, like a regular practice, you can make improvements. And coming from someone who was in this constant state, who wouldn't sleep at night because they couldn't relax it enough. Every time the car, like, someone slammed on the brakes too quickly or like zigzagged a little bit, and I still sometimes will, like, I'll overreact, I'm like grabbing onto the handle. Doing these small things made it much easier for me to relax and to not get as quickly, go quickly into that reaction. And I'm like, it's stuff I really want to share with everyone, because if it's something that you're going through, it's difficult and a lot of other people don't understand what's happening.
Mhm.
And you want to get to that place where you're connecting with other people. When you feel like you're so in a different realm, I think finding the things that help kind of bring you back to, where you think your normal is, and being able to be in the same sort of space with others is huge. At least it was for me. So,
well, and it's good for people to know that they're not alone. Like,
yeah,
this is
absolutely.
not this is not an abnormal response. Like, none of
No,
this is
so many people
abnormal.
so
Yeah.
many people are going through this, and more people are in falling into chronic states,
Yes.
which is why it's worth talking about, right? If it wasn't so common, I don't think it would be so like readily available. Like, I'm reading more and more about it everywhere. I'm seeing more and more about it on social
Hmm.
media. And I feel like a lot of people are looking for ways to deal with their stress.
Hmm.
So
Well,
I
and
just,
I
you know,
definitely think that it is very prominent right now, just in the world, that you are at some point of your daily life, you are responding to something or reacting to something in these ways.
yeah, without a
Uh,
doubt.
yeah, and it might not be for a long period of time. It might not even be something that you notice, but you if you pay attention, and kind of like, oh, yeah, I responded like I was ready to fight there. You know what I mean? Or I responded where I just like took off, didn't even ask what was going on. I was like, out. And
Yeah,
so
no.
I think we respond all the time, or react all the time.
React, yeah.
Yeah, react all the time in these manners. And it's because we live in a very stressful time. We're living in a stressful timeline right now. That's
All right.
awesome. Thank you for clearing all that up.
So we're gonna go back to Heather's pre-prepared questions from the blog that she wrote. Um,
No worries.
well, no, I just like I said, it was just such like an important part for me
Yeah,
that I felt it was like really necessary to share that, because it's something that has helped me so much
yeah, I
that
love that.
I wanted to like I really wanted to make sure that got in there. Yeah. So, all right, so we're going to go like, what's the most important takeaway about these responses?
So I would say the most important thing is to understand that these responses are natural. Like I just said, like everybody goes through them. You're not alone. It's not because you're overreacting or something like that. You're not alone. Like these responses, we all have them. So your brain is trying to protect you. That's what your brain is for, right? And yay, you live every day. You are 100% successful when you wake up in the morning that you were successful the day before. Yeah, your brain did what it was supposed to do.
Yay,
And
brains.
yes.
Okay.
And so to be, to have awareness, be grounded, have movement and do holistic practices and pay attention to what is causing your stress and how this all comes about. Like the more you pay attention to it, the more you can empower yourself to work through these situations, right? So, managing the brain, helping the brain know that you're safe if you truly are safe, and not reacting, responding to situations by using all your senses, making sure that you're aware of the surroundings and what's going on. Yeah. And just find things to build your resilience. Like Rachel said, like if you do the humming and the gargling and all of these things that can build resilience in the body and train your body, it's like muscle memory, right? I do hard things on my mat so I can go out into the world and do hard things in the world. And so when I'm on my mat and I'm putting my body into a stressful position and I can keep my breath steady and equal and even, that is telling my body, even though this position is very stressful, you are okay. And my body is like, oh, my brain is like, oh, okay, we're good. So when I'm out in the world and something is stressing me out, my brain and my body are working together and it's like, oh, I don't smell anything bad. I don't hear anything bad. My body's just a little stressed. We're good. And so if you can find something that helps you get there, where you can really tell your brain, hey, we're okay. Thanks for protecting me and I appreciate you, then you can live a little bit calmer. That's all.
All right.
So simple. Now, not that simple.
It's not, you know what? It is. It's simple, but it's not always easy.
Yes.
And I think that's what it comes down to. Yes, it's simple. It's a simple concept, but sometimes taking those simple concepts and putting them into action can be extremely difficult and overwhelming. And the thing is to take the first step, right? And that's always awareness. It's always noticing.
Yeah.
Once you've got that down and you're noticing and you're paying attention, then you can start to take some small actions. And I think we've left you with some small actions that you can take to start to regulate. And even if that small action is simply looking for some help.
Yeah, totally.
That's definitely a great place to start. All right. So we're going to end there because we went really long because I got a little overly passionate about some stuff. And so I want to thank you for listening because this is huge. Like all of this means so much to me, and Heather's just enjoying this way too much. So thank you for now and goodbye, and we love you. And I hope you found this helpful.
We appreciate you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Friendship, Wellness, and Wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media for more updates. See you next time.